Hi, my name is Haikal. My mentor's number is 2103725, and I will be presenting on green chemistry challenges towards the approach and the implementation of the 12 principles of green chemistry. A bit of history. Green chemistry was founded in 1998 by Paul Ernestus and also John C. Warner. It was a book written by them in 1998, and it is widely been used and practiced by scientific research and also chemistry worldwide, and it had gained a huge recognition throughout the world in the practices of green chemistry. As we all understand, green chemistry has closely related with the synthesis and the invention of new substances or new invention that would help in the world environment in the future if a new outcome or a pre-existing outcome had been invented, a new methodology in changing the way that we used to invent things that would be sustainable towards the environment. So the challenges of green chemistry. This is an article interview with a researcher from the University of McGill, and also I will be highlighting the Harvard University's journal in the challenges of green chemistry. So from the point of view of Dr. Audrey Morse, a research group at McGill University in Canada, there are few aspects that become a barrier towards the practices of green chemistry. So from the interview, I categorized into two aspects, which are first and foremost the scientific approach. The scientific approach for green chemistry, as we all know, the aim of this green chemistry and its 12 principles is to diminish waste and toxicity towards human and also the environment. So with the scientific approach, there are challenges to create new analysis towards new methodology. As I mentioned earlier in the introduction, how can we invent new chemicals or substances that would be less harmful, and how can we improve existing substances and chemistry which aligns with the 12 principles of green chemistry. And the lastly from the interview is green chemistry is quite relatively new, and towards the challenges of green chemistries, we need to have sufficient data for creating a better approach in the scientific aspect, maybe in the terms of the methodology and also in terms of the technology and other practices and new scientific ways to implement green chemistry in future research. And the second aspect of McGill University's views is the technical barriers. So the technical barriers is in terms of who would be involved in this green chemistry approach. Is it only just for chemists, or should be to all mankind or all bodies of parties, whether it be in the academic organization or business organization, and does it has to stick towards the chemistry department, or should it be to all engineering, business, and anyone should be involved? So that also relates to who should we be working with, who should, because of green chemistry is closely related with chemistry, with chemists. So who should this chemist should be working with? So should this chemist should work in terms of focus towards the creation or the improvement of new scientific approach of chemical synthesis, or should they have different views and different expertise from different experts? So how and what they can do together to create this approach. And from these barriers, this is one of the challenges that closely relates to Harvard's implementations research or journal that they conclude in the United States of the barriers. So there are 6 barriers that they written in their journal. So at first, as I mentioned, who should they be working with? Should they working just with the scientific department themselves, or they can work with different bodies such as the government and also with MNCs, multinational companies. So with economic and financial as their first barriers is cost, incentive, and markets. So with cost, towards green chemistry implementation, it requires a lot of research. With research, it requires a lot of funds that needs to be done to implement the new discoveries towards green chemistry. And the second of their barriers is regulatory uncertainty, timing, and disincentive. So with green chemistry, it's a new methodology and it requires a new invention. With this new invention, it requires a lot of time. So when you create something new in the future, we can't predict, but we can understand in the long run. So as I mentioned, green chemistry is quite relatively new, and it requires a lot of time to see whether or not this green chemistry has a huge impact towards the success of green chemistry principles. For example, if you look into plastics, plastics, biodegradable plastics had been invented to degrade at a faster pace compared to a regular plastic. Regular plastic would decompose, but in a very long time, maybe 100 to 200 years. But with this biodegradable plastic, which is the initiative by green chemistry's principle, it takes much less time compared to a traditional plastics that would take hundreds of years. It would be accelerated into maybe 50 or maybe less than 100 years. So in the third barriers, as I mentioned as well, who should they be working with? In terms of why they should work with other bodies and other experts, is because we want the expertise, the education, the training, scientific, and the engineering issues to implement these green chemistry principles towards the success of these principles. So we need other views and others expertise to work together. So if they can work together, they can create new discoveries. So it also relates with organizational, intra-firm, and firm economic. So with in terms of this scientific approaches or scientific research, this does not has to be stick into the scientific bodies solely. It can also be intra-firm with other bodies such as the government, the education system, and for us, consumer as well, and for us to understand the importance of these 12 principles of green chemistry. And for us, for regular people, they are not in the scientific bodies or departments that do all the hard work to find of these new inventions and discoveries. It also goes back to cultural awareness, educational curriculum, priorities, and attitudes. In terms of this culture, there are some people who are unaware or maybe might dismiss these views of green chemistry movement. They might view this as an agenda for corporations to make things hard. So the acceptance of this community and the public towards green chemistry is quite important. So if one is naive and doubt towards the green chemistry, it would not be a successful movement for the green principles. Therefore, in the last barrier is the definition and metrics. The paper by Harvard University also mentions the different views and interpretation of green chemistry. Does it has to be relates towards chemical sustainability, or does it has to be solely independent department for green chemistry, or does it has to be, as I mentioned, in the views of McGill universities, who they should be working with? Does it has to be solely for the scientific bodies, or it should be to all bodies in the direction of 12 principles of green chemistry. So from these challenges, why this chemistry principles plays an important aspect and role is because we should understand how green chemistry could benefit us from the top to the ground. What do I mean from the top to the ground is that from us for consumers and for the from the up, like from the government and from the scientific bodies, they can help to prevent unwanted circumstances. As 12 principles of green chemistry teach us to do something that aligns the areas that we might have missed to create something new, and also we can also improve something new. So as part of the subject of interest that I chose for the real life case is the tragedy of the Bhopal gas, for the MIC gas, methyl isocyanate, which is called MIC. So what happened was in 37 years ago, or maybe I think more than 40 years ago, back before green chemistry was been highly recognized and also been founded, because green chemistry was founded in 1998. I think the tragedy of the Bhopal gas disaster was in 1980s. Was the disaster of a pesticide company that manufactures their own supply of MIC gas. So what happened in 1970s, the Indian government decided to have investment towards a certain region of India, and this region is not suitable for heavy industrial, such as this company that they decide to work with is a multinational company from the United States that manufactures the pesticides. And the selection of the place themselves is not suitable for the manufacturing of this pesticide company, because the region that they selected is much better in terms of infrastructure of logistics for transportation and such. But the problem became worse when they decide to cut costs. They tried to do backward manufacturing. Instead of they buy and import the raw materials, they decide to do the materials from A to Z. So one of the chemicals requirements is to use MIC gas. So with the MIC gas, they manufacture it themselves instead of importing and buying from OEMs. So it would be feasible for them to reduce costs and manufacture them themselves. So what happened was, when they manufactured the MIC gas, there had been a gas leak, and this MIC gas is very undetectable by the human eye or the human sense, and it had killed millions of people surrounding the industrial factories, and it had been an impact even until to this day. So thousands had died and millions are affected by this tragedy. Therefore, if in the first place, if the government of India did not put this location of manufacturing at a suitable location, maybe even if green chemistry was invented way before this tragedy, I think if they are aware and they are implement and they are practicing this green chemistry principles, it could have been avoided. So as I mentioned in the first of this presentation, it does not have to be rely on the chemists to create the substances of green chemistry. It could also have to be from different bodies and different parties to understand the implementation of the 12 principles of green chemistry. So if green chemistry principles, it should be practiced by all parties. And one of the one of the understanding is that we can learn from this tragedy is that in the future, when we create a new business development and new chemical industries or any practices that involves human risk should be practiced and aligned with green chemistry. So that's all from me. I'm Haikal, and thank you.